That would be totally funny.
Well, hello there. How are you?
We're up pretty early. So we just put them makes some extra time. Maybe they have books for each other. I have. We have like 3 chickens that have
That's too hard. That's too hard. I'm like, read out the old. Read out the old.
Good job. That's what Jesse, he was in the line. It's like, you want to wear for midnight. You can't wear that. DQ. So he said, maybe we should do that for next year. It's
I would totally, Lucy, you know Lucy and I would drop those.
I forgot about your name. Yeah. It's like, grab my.
Y'all are hot mess.
Yes, we are, but at least we take care of it.
This is true. Yes.
Did you forget everything?
No, I read everything else except for this, my overnight.
What was in the bag? Because technically you're not supposed to list those.
Overnight stuff.
My shaver, my toothbrush, and toothpaste. I really wanted that. Deodorant, my mouth guard. What else do I have in there? Chapstick.
All the important things.
Yeah.
30 years.
Not really, I'm asking you. Oh, yeah. Really mean it every week.
Morning. Or afternoon, whatever you want to say. I think you all got to most of the way through John 2, for maybe the last couple of verses. And those are basically salutation verses at 12 and 13. Though I have much to write to you, I would rather not use paper and ink. Instead, I hope to come to you and talk face to face so that our joy may be complete. The children of your elect sister greet you. Anything anybody wants to go back, recap that y'all discussed Wednesday night, or anything on those verses before we move in to 2 John? Alrighty then. We'll come back to verse 12 a little bit later in our study, so just be reminded of what that says. So let's go on into 3 John, and let's see. Let's read the first 4 verses, and then we'll start a discussion. Go.
The elder to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you, that you may be in good health as it goes well with your soul. For I rejoiced greatly when the brothers came and testified to your truth, as indeed you are walking in truth. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in truth.
Thank you. All right. So obviously this starts out, the elder. Who's the elder? John, right? And to the beloved Gaius, or Gaius, however you want to say his name, obviously is a faithful brother that John holds in pretty high esteem. So he goes on in verse 2, and what does he really, what do you take from verse 2? What is John's interest?
Well-being of Gaius.
Actually true. In what way?
He's talking about being in good health. So reading it is, we can assume that maybe he's getting along well as for his soul. So we could assume maybe he's a little bit older, and so he's wanting to try to, pull him through whatever issues he may go through from a health standpoint. That's at least what I'm getting from what we read.
Interesting concept. I hadn't really thought of him being older. That's an interesting take. But it's very possible. Very possible. But I think mainly, he's not only interested in his health, he's always also interested in what? His spiritual health. So he's combining the two together and saying, hey, I'm interested in your whole being. I'm interested in everything about you. And I'm hoping it's all going well for you. Which, is that unlike us today? Shouldn't be. Should be exactly the same, right? We should have the interest of a person's physical well-being as well, and more importantly, their spiritual well-being. And so it's nice to see that shown here by John as he's writing to Gaius. Okay, so verse 3. For I rejoiced greatly when the brothers came and testified to your truth. What does that say about Gaius and his life? Just that simple phrase. What does that say?
He had a godly reputation.
He had a godly reputation. And a reputation is what? Did Gaius tell him how faithful he was? Was he the one that was telling John how faithful he was?
No, it was his reputation.
That was obviously seen by all who knew him, right? Very important that we understand that our reputation is seen, our deeds, the way we live our lives are seen by everyone around us. Not only brothers and sisters, but the world. And word gets around as to what you do, what I do. And it's shared. I think it's important for us to see that that reputation that we are creating, it's recognizable. It's our actions, it's our very being. It's what people see and know us and how they know us. And that's how they knew Gaius. And that's how they shared with John, hey, this guy is doing great. This guy is faithful. I found it interesting, though, that I got 3 versions here that I read. And it's the English Standard Version and the New American Standard and the New International Version. And the English Standard says, testified to your truth. Okay? New American Standard says the same thing. The NIV adds a word, which I think helps us understand possibly what is meant there. And it says, testified about your faithfulness to truth. In other words, how truth is embodied in our lives, our faithfulness to that. I think that helps us understand a little bit about what he's saying there. Because it's not Gaius's truth, is it? It's not owned by him. It's Jesus Christ, it's God. So, then there's a word there that says, I rejoiced greatly. What do we take from that? How do you embody that? How do you think of that when he says, I rejoiced greatly that I was told about this? Mike?
Very proud of your efforts, or very proud of your results, maybe?
Okay.
I go back to the second letter, and he was referring to not giving in to those that are persuading them maybe to a different belief. So that could have even been part of this too, that he hasn't caved.
Okay. For someone to express joy or to rejoice means you're happy for what you've heard, means you're approving of what you've heard about somebody. I think of, okay, when Jesus was baptized, what did the Father say through the Spirit?
My son is well pleased.
This is my son, in whom I am well pleased. That's joy. That's a joy being expressed by the Father about his son and what he's doing and how he's doing it. You think of the resurrection, okay? The joy that was expressed when they saw him, but then he also told them to rejoice in this fact as he was talking with them, to rejoice. There are things that should bring joy to us. And the fact that Jesus was resurrected, that should bring joy to our life, to our whole being. He goes on there and says, as indeed you are walking in truth. So, first part he said, testified to your truth. And now he says, as indeed you are walking in truth. So, again, this idea of being very evident, your life expresses that you are following, you are being faithful. Yes.
I don't know if it makes any difference, but Gaius is mentioned in Romans by Paul, where he tells him, Gaius, who is opposed to me and the whole church. Kind of sounds like this Gaius here.
I would venture to say you're right, that he is. Glad you brought it up. I thought about that and then I didn't go look it up. So, yeah, no, I think it's very true. Verse 4, he says, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in truth. What's that? What's that all about? What about my children? Who's he talking about?
Those that he has taught.
Those who he have taught, okay. Not a physical thing, is it? It's a spiritual thing when he's talking about that. And the fact that they are being faithful, the fact that they are walking in truth. So, he says as children, so you think of, okay, fostering or something. He's fostered them in the truth. He's taught them the truth, and they are following. So now think as parents, physically. Think of your kids. What brings you joy? What about them brings you joy? Just that they belong to you?
When they're doing well, when they are growing, when they show maturity, ability to stand on their own and right.
I think there was some things being shared yesterday by some of the guys that along that line. It's like, wow, just to see them grow, see them start to blossom, so to speak. And more so when it would be you see them growing spiritually and growing in their faith and growing in the truths that they've been taught. How much joy that can bring. So you can take that concept and look at it from taking somebody and teaching them the gospel and them obeying the gospel and seeing the growth that takes off from there. And how that sat very well with John. Yes, Jen.
And just like what you're all saying, he sees himself as a shepherd, and he's reflecting Jesus, who was the ultimate shepherd, who he got to be around and spend time with. And Jesus used the term "my children" also, so he's reflecting this understanding of being a teacher and teaching the most valuable life and eternal lessons. And so I just really think he's also just mimicking what he learned.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That emulating Jesus Christ and carrying that message and carrying that whole persona forward. Anything else in those first 4 verses? Okay, let's read verses 5 through 8. Lori?
Beloved, it is a faithful thing you do in all your efforts for these brothers, strangers as they are, who testify to your love before the church. You will do well to send them on their journey in a manner worthy of God. For they have gone out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. Therefore, we also support people like these, that we may be fellow workers for the truth.
Thank you. So, going back to verse 3, was it? Back to verse 3. As indeed you are walking in truth. What is walking in truth, according to what John is saying here?
Not being afraid to share that with others.
Okay. Sharing the gospel with others.
Your way of life shows that you're living as he would want you to.
Your very way of life. Excellent. But here it looks like he's pointing to the fact of how are you working with your brethren? How are you, beloved, it is faithful thing that you are doing in all your efforts with these brothers and sisters. And then he goes on and qualifies that a little bit further. Okay, and strangers. Well, what does he mean, strangers? Is he talking about the world when he says strangers?
I think he's referring to the brothers, but maybe that relationship isn't as strong as what we might see today. You got new people coming together and joining together in this effort, and so they're kind of strangers in this regard.
They don't know one another, but they are all members of the body. They are all followers of Jesus Christ. But they're strangers. I don't know you, but we have this in common, right? So, this working together and embracing one another and encouraging one another, building one another up, I think that's probably embodying what he's talking about here when he talks about walking in truth. Showing the love that has been such a common thread of what John has taught in his gospel in 1 John.
And it's these strangers that are the ones that are testifying to his love and his devotion or his faithfulness. It's these guys that don't know him that well that testify to that.
Right. What is our tendency, though? Our tendency is to saddle up to the ones we know, and the ones we already have a relationship with. But I think we do a great job here of welcoming, in Pittsboro, welcoming new people in and pulling them into the fold. Now, can we get better? Absolutely. Always can get better. But I think we do well at that. But I think that's what he's talking about here, is showing that love, showing our care, showing our concern, helping them and encourage each other. Love one another, right? The new command. He goes on in verse 6 and he says, who testified, these strangers and those brethren, who testified of your love before the church. So that goes right back to, okay, you're showing the love that I've said is the new command, that Jesus said was a new command. and I'm shared with you and have explained to you over and over what it's all about. You're exhibiting that, you're showing that, and that is a testimony to you. But he then goes on and he says, you will do well to send them on their journey in a manner worthy of God. Somebody tell me what that's all about. What is a manner worthy of God?
Give them what they need, help them.
To help them? I just think it's the embodiment of all of what we've just talked about, of that showing that love, and so that those folks will now pick up that same mantle and they can carry that on in the same way. You've done it, Gaius. You and your people have done it. Now the people that you are working with and sharing with, that can continue on through them, that they can do those same works in a manner worthy of God and following his plan. This next verse, I think, could be a little confusing, so maybe y'all can help me a little bit. For they have gone out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. That's the English Standard Version. New American Standard says, for they went out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. The NIV says, it was for the sake of the name that they went out, receiving no help from the pagans. What's being said there? What's the concept that we need to walk away with and understand? Jen's got it. Let's go.
I think that verses 6 through 8 go together. That's just how I read it. So sending them on their way in a manner that honors God, and then saying that their mission was for God, and they had no help from others, and so we therefore should show hospitality so we can work together. I thought all of that went together, as they're not getting help from outside. We are their family, and so we should help them. That's what I read there.
Okay. Nice summation. So, I guess his point is, we're not to be looking to the outside for assistance and help in making things happen. That's why we have a community, that's why we have a church, that's why we have a family. That's our role to deal with that. So I guess if you took it to the nth degree, it's like, okay, I'm not going to go out here and sell cakes and everything and let the world support what we're doing. That's not the goal. I just happened to think of that as I was talking here. The sake of the name, I'm going to take it that's for Jesus Christ, for the purpose of Jesus Christ and God our Father. Carrying that forward. So verse 8, carrying that on then, we ought therefore to show hospitality to such people, well, that's in one version, so that we may work together for the truth. The English Standard Version says we ought to support people like these. What does that bring to mind? What's the equivalence here? What's support and the work? How's that all coming together?
Saying they're out doing the work, and when you help them, you're sharing in that work, you're providing for that work as well. So you should take joy in the work that you've done to support them.
Right. So there's more than just going and doing the work. It's supporting others who are doing the work, whether that's financially, whether that's encouragement, whether that's whatever. The support we should be willing to give because it's equal to doing the work. And that work is, as was said earlier, sharing the gospel, sharing what you've learned, and doing the deeds that you should be doing as a child of God.
I think it's the concept of unity,
Yeah,
right? And all those written letters that talk about the different attributes that various members of a body has, this kind of alludes to it, right?
so we see the work others are doing. We should be happy about that. We should be joyful about that. And we should want to emulate that. And feed and nourish that love and everything that is embodied there. And one of the things I wrote down here is this joy and everything that we have for that. It's about sharing in the culture that is created by those who are sharing the gospel, those who are living the gospel. Sharing in that culture and that atmosphere that is created. And the excitement that comes with that. And when you see people obeying the gospel and see them living their lives like they should, that should create excitement in us and encourage us to do the same.
So is this only talking about those that are sharing the gospel in the realm of preaching?
Absolutely not. It's about each and every one of us living our lives and sharing the gospel in our lives. People seeing it. I think that's the whole idea here of the reputation that is being created, that is being seen. So it's a good point. Yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like real world ways that we could go about doing this, and just thinking about how you can share one another's burdens. And we do this well when somebody is suffering, then we're like, hey, I'm going to bring you a meal, and so we're sharing in their suffering. But then, it could be as simple as hearing that Jen is going to have a Bible study with someone and she's feeling nervous about that, and I say, hey, can I just come with you? And we could do that together, or I can pray for you, or I could feed your family that night. I know Bradley is in Zimbabwe right now, and we have supported him in getting him there, and so maybe it means sending Ashley a text and saying, hey, we're praying for Bradley, and let us know if anything pops up and there are any specific needs.
Excellent. Could be we send them
You could send her
gift,
DoorDash
a
gift
gift,
cards.
yeah,
You
that's
take
what,
the kids out.
you took the words, I couldn't come up with the words.
Yeah, all the roles right now, so.
Sure, that's excellent.
And she's very stressed, like he's in another country that is not as up to date as ours, and so he could get
Absolutely.
sick. There are a lot of things that could go wrong.
Excellent point. And the excitement around that, the atmosphere that creates in us as well as for them.
And the more involved we are individually, the more we're partaking with him.
Exactly. Great point. Donna.
And I think too, that when we're aware of Christians in other lands and what they're being taught. And I'm impressed by when, like, Ron Albert will post his sermons or something that he's given. They're very simple, to the point, easy for them to understand and apply to their life. And it reminds me to go back to the simplicity of what we're supposed to do.
Well, to that point, Donna, I think sometimes we think we have to get so deep in thought. And you know what? Simple and to the point, and here's the points that the Lord wants us to see in the scripture is many times a lot better. That, oh, I'm a Greek scholar. I can tell you that this word means this, and really what he's saying is this. Well, how about just taking it for what it's worth? Sometimes we dig a little deeper than we should and try to read more into it than we should. Is it wrong necessarily? No, that's not my point. My point is we get too deep, and I think if we've learned anything over studying John and studying Acts, we should understand that that's exactly what the Jews were doing. That's exactly what the Pharisees were doing. They were straining in an act. And missing the whole picture. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. All right. Moving on. Unless somebody else has something over those first 8 verses that you want to share. So 9 through, well, let's go 9 through 12. John, go for it.
I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will not welcome us. So when I come, I will call attention to what he is doing, spreading malicious nonsense about us. Not satisfied with that, he even refuses to welcome other believers. He also stops those who want to do so and puts them out of the church. Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God. From God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God. Demetrius is well spoken of by everyone, and even by the truth itself. We also speak well of him, and you know that our testimony is true. I have much to write you, but I do not want to do so with pen and ink. I hope to see you soon, and we will talk face to face.
You may as well read the last verse now. Go ahead.
Peace to you. Friends here, send their greetings. Greet the friends there by name.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we get into some meat here now of some concerns that John has. Okay? He's talked to Gaius and how great things are there, and the information that's been coming back to him about the reputation of Gaius. And now he says, I've written something to the church. However, what do you do with it? He didn't send it. He held on to it. Why did he hold on to it? Because of that guy. Because if he was sent it, obviously there was a person there, Diotrephes, who would have not allowed it to be read. That's what it appears to me. This idea of I have written something goes back to what I just said, at the end of 1 John 2, though I have much to write to you, I would rather not use paper and ink. Instead, I'd like to be face to face with you. There's certain things John is willing to lay out on paper, and there's other things like, deem this a little bit more important. I want to deal with this face to face. I don't like to put things to paper because I don't do well at it. I would much rather talk to someone, because if I make a miscue in my words, I can correct it, or they can, and we can get it all squared away right there, rather than reading something into what I wrote because I didn't write it right. Now, let me say this also. The Holy Spirit's guiding what he's writing also. So I don't want to take away from what the Holy Spirit does in the writings of these. But he points us out, the end of 2 John here in 9 and 10. It says, if I come, I will bring up this issue when I come. And then on down in verse 13 that John went ahead and read, I had much to write to you, but I would rather not write with pen and ink, because I hope to see you soon, and I want to talk to you face to face. I view it as he's putting a high value on face-to-face communication, and a higher value than a written communication. Maybe not a higher, but that's kind of the way I take it, that, hey, some of these more serious things, I want to be there face-to-face, and I want to deal with these in person. Yes?
Well, we're told that if we have an issue with someone, we're to go to them. And when you have a negative issue, it's better to address it in person than it is through writing, for the fact that you had said that either they don't read it or they read into it farther than what it is.
Very true. Any other comments there? We're at 40, so I think we're going to wrap it up here. And I'm not going to be here Wednesday night, but I'd really like to be here for that next section, but that's okay. I'm sure you guys will do well with it, because I think there's a lot to be learned in this whole concept of what's going on and what John is writing to them about Gaius, Diotrephes, and then Demetrius, and how all that plays together, and what he's pointing out of this is what we should be like. This is how we should be in the church. Thanks for everybody's participation.